Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Business Renovator with myself, Phil Jokes, or AKA Coach Phil, and my good buddy from overseas in the UK, Bernard Key.
Bernard Keevy, all the way from Warwickshire in the middle of England. How are you, Phil?
I'm doing well, and now we can let everybody see whose voices those were behind the screen. Here we are. So what's happening in your world today? What's exciting and new?
Well, that's a good question, isn't it? Well, everything's new. I mean, it's just exciting to be here for a start, isn't it? And it's exciting to look out and, look at leaves and look at the sun and look at the clouds. All the little things are exciting, and sometimes we don't appreciate that. So, yeah, life's good.
It is good. You know, one of my associates in a group called Megamind, he's an author of a great book, this book here, and I often use it to start my other lives. Customer Delight 365. He has a quote from every day. Matter of fact, I'm gonna just open it randomly. We'll do one. What's it say? So Brian Monahan. Oh, here's a John Maxwell quote. A leader is one who knows the way, goes the way, and shows the way. Brian's take on that says leadership and customer service are almost the same thing. When we lead, we serve. So that's kind of why you and I are here on these Friday calls, is to lead and serve, is it not?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely, yeah. To share ideas, help people, and yeah, basically, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. We got people popping in. There was something else that was shared, and it was actually Brian Monahan, the author of that book, that came up with something. He's going to start with our group a gratitude bingo. So he's going to create bingo cards, and we need to go look for things we're grateful for. So I'm looking forward to that, because Harv Eker, who's a guru in the success world, he says where thoughts go, energy flows, and results show. So if we focus on what we want versus what we don't want, we're more likely to get what we want and stay away from the other crap that's out there that we don't need. So turning lemons into lemonades, as Dale Carnegie would say.
Well, it's even more, isn't it? If we focus on what we want, then we'll either get what we want or we'll get something else that probably maybe even turns out better.
Have you had experience with that?
Well, several times, I suppose. But if you're asking me to pick one off the top of my head, maybe, yeah.
I am. I'm putting you on the spot.
But that's often the way, isn't it? It's often the way that if you're in a mentality where you're looking for something positive anyway, then something better might turn up, and you'll actually be in the frame of mind to actually notice it and receive it and do something about it.
Yeah, just before this call, and one of the reasons why I was a little bit slow getting it all started and initiated today, and unless I told you guys that, you wouldn't have known. I was interrupted. I had somebody reach out to me from a former life, and they provided me with an ideal candidate for coaching. So having a coaching conversation, going to be introduced to this leader later today via email, and it might be an opportunity to share what I know and help him get to where he wants to get to. And so how does that tie into what I tried to put you on the spot for? Was when you start, how this came about was using live stream like this reminded people that I exist. And because of that, jarred their memory. They reached out, asked me told me about this opportunity, asked me if it was something I'd be interested in. And it all came because of his seeing me out there in social media on different platforms. So it's pretty cool. So this Megamind group that I'm part of has actually helped me push that, because they've been holding my feet to the fire, so to speak. So today we're going to talk about something relevant to sales, right, Bernard?
Yeah.
And you're going to talk about one component, and I'm going to talk about another. And who knows what else you'll get because of the two minds of our two-person mastermind. We often come up with some other things that we haven't even thought of. So I'm going to start sharing the screen, Bernard, and then you can start in with your part of it for us. So hang in there for a sec.
Sure.
Okay, let me share the screen. There we go. So well, this is the Business Renovator, for those of you who haven't figured that out. My buddy, the one with a beautiful English accent, is Bernard Keevy. He's the guy on the top, and I'm the guy below, Phil Jokes, or AKA Coach Phil. So Bernard's going to...
The pictures are the other way around.
Yes, that's right. Fortunately, we have tags on our names, though, right? Somebody told me there's a way to shift those. I haven't learned how to do that, so I'm afraid I don't.
Yeah, that's something that could go horribly wrong.
That's why I'm not doing it. So here's the handsome, magnificent Bernard Keevy. He's a profit growth specialist and a chartered financial planner. So if you want help with money, he's your guy. So why customers buy?
Yes, actually, I've been reading more about that today. Actually, and I did another webinar earlier. But let's just concentrate on where we are now. So, why people buy, and one of the aspects I wanted to focus on is what motivates people. And basically, it's either pain or pleasure. And obviously, it's more likely to be pain they're feeling now rather than preventing pain in the future. But both of those things are probably bigger motivators to buy than looking for pleasure now or pleasure in the future generally, because it seems to be that avoiding pain and loss is twice as important to us as pursuing positive gain. And obviously the fifth thing that motivates people is curiosity. So then I thought, well, let's talk a bit about pain. And we've both got a colleague, haven't we, Phil, Mike McMahon, who likes to talk about what he calls the pain funnel. And I thought I'd just talk a bit about what he talks about being the pain funnel. And then I thought we'd mention that how do you actually unearth the pain that lies down the pain funnel? And that's through asking the right sort of questions. And the best book I think I've ever read on that is a book called Spin Selling, which I'll refer back to. Neil Rackham is the author. So that's basically the theme of what I wanted to talk about briefly today. Anything to add there, sir?
Yeah, I have read Spin Selling, and I think for certain applications, it's probably one of the best processes. Where I find it's really effective is in large account opportunities where you're talking to multiple people and influencers, recommenders, and technical users. Absolutely.
Yeah. So if we move on.
Yes, clicking the next slide.
I can hear it clicking.
I am. There it is.
Is it? Aha, now. So this is one of my favorite ways of looking at things. This is obviously a tooth. No, it isn't. It's an iceberg. Just joking. So the iceberg, as we all know, I think it's something like, I don't know, 7/8 of it or something is below the surface. So what you see above the surface when you're talking to people and hoping they might buy something from you, what they tell you above the surface isn't necessarily the whole story. And there's generally an awful lot more below the surface, but you need to get to the thinking that's going on in their heads below the surface to get them to want to actually buy what it is that you're selling. Because if all you do is focus on the superficial things above the surface, then you probably won't get the commitment required for them to buy from you. I don't know if I've explained that very clearly, but did that make sense, Phil?
Yeah, basically that 90% or more is below the surface that we don't understand, that they might not share. And in order to understand them, we need to get to below the line where the water is to really seek to understand who they are, so we can better serve them. And if we have a solution for them, that is. And if we don't identify that, we might be trying to sell them something that we shouldn't be, or they're not going to buy because we haven't really. One of my favorite quotes when I do my sales training myself is I always want people to remember, no one cares about you until they know how much you care about them. And getting below the line and getting to the massive part of the iceberg helps demonstrate that we do care. If we're at the surface and don't get below there, when we haven't really built the rapport, trust, and respect, have we?
No, and we also, it's very easy to think that we've unearthed a want or a need when we're still above the surface, but really that we haven't, because the real need or the real want is probably hidden far deeper, and we need to have a way of getting to that need or want.
Right.
Which is where this idea of the pain funnel comes in, because if pain is more likely to be the reason to motivate people to buy, then we need to find out what the real pain is, and we need to dig, and we need to get below the surface to find that out. And that's where this idea of spin selling that Neil Rackham covers comes in, because the spin stands for S is situation, P is problem, I is implication, N is needs payoff. So as an example, for example, it might be very easy to say to someone, have you got a sales process? And they'll say, no, I haven't. And then you'll say, well, I could help you develop a sales process. Will you buy from me? And they'll probably say, I need to think about it, or I'm not ready to buy, or no, not interested. So we need to go a step further. So it could be, have you got a sales process? And they say, not really. And then you say, well, is that a problem to you? And they'll say, well, yes, because I think it's costing me sales. And then we think, okay, so would you like to buy one? And again, it's not gone deep enough, because again, we haven't really got to how that's affecting them and their employees possibly. So the next one would be, so the problem is you haven't got a sales force, it's costing you business. So how much business is that actually costing you? Tell me more. And we're digging now, we're finding out more about how much business, how big a problem this actually is, what the real implications of them and their business is. So it could be something along the lines of, well, it's costing us so much business that this year we're really struggling, and we may have to lay off people, and we're short of cash flow. And we're digging now, and we're finding more information. And then when we've got deep enough into the implications, it's then the needs payoff. And the needs payoff is, and so what would it be worth to you if we could solve that problem for you? How much would it be worth? And if we're able to question deeply enough and go far enough down the pain funnel, we've actually got a chance of getting commitment from the prospect. But if we stop too high up that pain funnel, we haven't really gone deep enough to get that commitment. Does that make sense?
Yep, it's peeling back the skin of the onion to get to the core of the individual and where they're trying to get to, whether it's a pain point or if it's a pleasure point.
Yeah. And what's really interesting is, again, this sort of bucks the trend a bit, but one thing that the book makes plain is that it's actually asking those types of questions, the SPIN questions, that's more important than concentrating on open. You're hearing all the sales training that you need to ask lots of open questions, but it's not necessarily open versus closed questions that count. You need a combination of both. But what really you need is a combination of digging deeper than just unearthing, the superficial situation and the problem. So it's the spin selling questions that are arguably more important than whether those questions are open or closed, as individual questions. Again, does that make sense?
Yeah, it absolutely does. What I find that works along that line is to be comfortable in your own skin and just have a conversation with people. Don't be thinking about what you should be saying after you've asked a question and they're responding to it. Damn it, listen to them. Listen to them aggressively, whatever style or flavor the question is, so that you can really understand what it is that's going on in their mind. There's no other way. You cannot judge a book by the cover and understand what the contents of the book is, can you?
No. And
no.
There's lots of benefits to listening properly, aren't there? So, I mean,
yeah. I shared I think it's an anagram around listen. What other word can listen be turned into? I found out there's another one, tinsel. That's not the one I had in mind. There's another one besides tinsel.
Lentil?
What can listen be turned into? Listen.
What can it be turned into?
Silent.
Ah, very good. Very good.
If you're listening, you're silent. And if you're silent, you can listen, right?
Good. Yeah. Yeah.
And you could be thinking about putting tinsel on a Christmas tree because apparently it spells tinsel. I never thought of that. That was a bit of a shock when somebody came back to me with tinsel. I went, yeah, okay, well, that's not what I had in mind, but yeah, it actually does spell tinsel. Anyway, that was a really good, quick overview of the art of spin selling. So situation, problem, implication, needs, spin.
Yeah.
Right?
And basically all we're really trying to do is get beyond the superficial first answer and actually dig deep enough to know how much of a concern it is to them and how much of a benefit it would be to them if they could solve it. And we'll only get there by asking more and more, tell me more. Or as Brian likes to say, Brian Tracy, one of his favorites is, how do you mean? That's his favorite, isn't it? How do you
Yes,
mean?
it is. Yeah, how do you mean?
Yeah.
So the fellow that threw in the tinsel was Eric Bam. So he was asking, what did you say to my question? And Eric, he didn't get it. I had to see tinsel for Christmas tree. Eric is an amazing vice president of a company. He's so amazing, his bosses offered him a raise. He's growing the business in these uncertain times. It's fantastic. He's a really good salesperson and a member of the Megamind group that he was a co-founder of. So there's a plug for my buddy Eric.
Pleased to meet you, Eric.
Anything else you want to add to spin selling?
No, I think so. To me, the implication of it, the whole theme really is we need to get below the surface to find out what the real pain is in order to motivate people to want to buy. And we can only do that by asking questions that dig deeper than just a couple of superficial questions and then thinking we've got the answer. We probably haven't got the answer until we've dug deeper and deeper. It's a question of judgment, obviously, but the more deeply we can ask things like, how do you mean, or tell me more, the more likely we are to be able to dig deep enough to actually get to the real pain points.
Exactly. So there we go. So guess who this is? Oh, it's me. And I'm a business performance coach specializing in sales, marketing, and mindset. Let's go on to what I'm going to talk about. So this kind of ties in with what you've already said about spin selling. This is a relationship model of selling. I like to say I'm turning things upside down. Typically, people would see a pyramid with the foundation being the widest part at the bottom, the lower section. And what you see here is I've inverted that. And on the right-hand side, you'll see there's some percentages. Trust, needs, presentation, and close. So it's 40, 30, 20, 10. And much the same as the spin idea, we need to build the trust and rapport before we can get to the close. And if we spend and do the heavy lifting, which is really slowing down long enough to really uncover the situation with the person we're talking to. And then once we've uncovered it by asking the needs questions, that's a needs analysis, we spent 70% of the time learning about our prospect customer. Once we've done that, then we can jump into persuasive presentations. And in the presentation, what you end up doing is sharing what you've uncovered in the 70% of the sales process and presenting it back to them in a way that makes sense to them with trial questions or trial closes to see, like to take a blood pressure check to see if you're on the right path. And then painting the picture of how they could have what it is they're looking for because of the things that your service or product provides. And when it gets to the close, if you've done the 90% activities effectively, the close generally turns out to be really non-stressful, an easier process. And it ends up often in my world, how do I get that? Can we start today? How does this program work? It gets them asking active questions to get involved and get stuff done because you've earned the right by taking the spin idea of finding out what's important, building trust and rapport, understanding the needs, presenting what you've uncovered, and then getting the commitment, which is the close. It's really simple, but it's something I'm a big fan of, and it's had major impacts for the people that I get to share this with. as clients of mine in the sales training programs that I deliver. So much so that some of them have got in excess of 42% sales increase because of the effectiveness of this model. And the price objection rarely rears its head because of the value they've brought and the solutions they've provided. So that's the relation in a nutshell, is a relationship model of selling. Anything you want to add to that?
Well, all I want to add really is it ties in really well with something I was reading earlier today, which talks about the human brain and talks about the fact that we've got 3 levels in basic terms for the human brain. We've got the reptilian level, which is fear, flight or fight. It's the fear element. Then we've got the emotional level, which is the limbic or the mammalian brain, which is all about emotions and wanting things. And then we've got the 3rd level, which is the human level, where we can make rational decisions. So this mirrors it, because the first thing you have to overcome in order to establish any sort of trust is you have to overcome fear. So you've got the fear first, and then you've got the trust element, which is moving up, from the reptilian brain, if you like. Then you're talking, once you're beyond that stage, then you can find out their needs and their wants, which is the emotional brain. And it's at that stage that they've decided to buy. And then when you make your presentation and close, you've more or less come up to the human brain bit where you're actually appealing to the rational brain to buy. But they've already made their decision at that stage because you've overcome the fear, you've got their trust, and you've got their emotional commitment. So it's almost, this process is moving up through the 3 levels of the human brain. So I just think it's really interesting how the 2 things sort of fit together, and if you understand one, you understand the other. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And look at what Steve Lowry says. He says the upside down triangle works fantastic. He's part of the company that had that sales success increased. So thanks for being here, Steve. Appreciate the comment there. Much appreciated. Wow, that time has gone pretty quick today already. Yeah. We're already like 22 minutes. So let's do what I like to do next.
Yep.
Okay. Yes. It's a little bit sluggish today. It must be, I don't know what's going on with my technology. But anyway, here we are. So this Quink, this is something that you can use in any aspect of your life, whether it's selling or personal or otherwise, in any area as you're moving towards your goals. The key is to have goals so you know where you're moving to and from. And on today's call session, if there's something that you've heard that you think you should stop doing, let us know. If there's something that you think you should continue doing based on what you've heard either one of us talk about today, or if there's something you should start doing, just pop it in the comments or if you like, and we'll wait a few seconds to see if anybody pops in and wants to tell us what they're going to stop doing, continue doing, and start doing. Quink stands for, while we're waiting them for a few comments, stands for knowing what I now know, what will I stop doing, continue doing, and start doing. So if you're in the sales profession, one of the things you could do with this is if you've done a presentation, you could, after the presentation, even if you get the order, you can do a stop, continue, and start, and assess what you did well and where there's room for improvement. Those are kind of things you could do. If you're in the prospecting side of things and you didn't get the opportunity, you can stop, knowing what I now know, what would I do differently, what will I continue doing, and what should I have started doing. This applies anywhere and everywhere. Well, we're not getting any comments, so that's all right. But just remember, guys and gals, to Quink everything you do. Just check in with yourself to see where you're at, what can you improve upon, what's working well to continue doing, and what is it you said you were going to do but you haven't done, and moving along. So we have something for everybody. This really pertains to business owners specifically. But Bernard, would you like to explain what this is all about?
Yes. Well, using our process, which we call the Profit Accelerator software, it's a diagnostic program, and we ask you a series of questions about your business, and then based on your answers, we try and quantify what effects the answers would have on your figures. So we look at your turnover, your gross and net profit. And what we guarantee is that at the end of a 45-minute process where we go through using the software, we'll guarantee to find at least $50,000 to $100,000 for any business owner in hidden opportunities, hidden revenue within their business, with strategies they could put into place straight away. And if you do, you'd see how you would generate this sort of revenue.
Absolutely.
And it depends. I mean, when we say 50 to 100,000, it depends. If it's a really small business, then 50,000 more realistic. But generally, what we find is 100,000 is a figure that's very achievable for, most business owners, isn't it? And we do find it, and it's a guarantee.
So all you have to do to get that is to go here and reach out to one of us. Our contact information is there. I'm the fellow in the tie, which I don't have on anymore, at the bottom, Phil, Coach Phil, and then Bernard's at the top. So our email information is right there. I see, actually, I'm going to back up just a little bit. Stop thinking that I need to make cold calls and make more warm and hot calls. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Thanks for that, Bruce. Appreciate you popping in and sharing what you're going to stop doing. That's brilliant. Now remember, guys and gals, to always think about the traffic light, green, yellow, and red. And just think to yourself, what could I stop doing, start doing, and continue doing?
Yeah. That's part of, so that's in terms of changing what we do. And then in terms of analyzing how successfully we've done a particular thing, I like those two questions of Brian Tracy's, which are what did I do well, and what would I do differently? So they're both positive questions. There's not a negative there. So what did I do well, and then what would I do differently next time? I think those are two powerful questions as well.
Yeah, and actually this is all Brian Tracy stuff that I'm sharing. Yeah. So those are both relevant. Anyway, that's our show for today. Until we meet again in a week's time on the Friday at, what time is it when we start in England?
It's 5 o'clock in the afternoon over here.
And it's 10 a.m. Mountain Time here. And depending on where everybody else is, it's because everybody's in a slightly different time zone, up to as many as 3 hours difference across North America. Actually, maybe 4 hours for some. Anyway, Bernard, as always, I enjoy the opportunity to spend some time with you and share some of the knowledge together. The two minds coming together ends up with that third one, and some other great things come out of that.
Absolutely.
So until next Friday.
Thank you very much, and